Happy International Women's Day. Today is a day that we reflect on why we need such a day and the wins. So I thought it was a perfect day to share this book with you. It's called Woman Code by Alisa Vitti. Why it's important is that it talks about hormones and how we women actually have a very powerful system in our bodies that take care of us, and that is really not very well known in society, and a lot of women have problems with their menstrual cycle and hormonal cycle. It is talked about sometimes as when someone says, oh, you're being hormonal, then we kind of shrink and like that's a bad thing, but actually it's really, really powerful. I got this book about 8 years ago. I went to the doctor. I had really bad periods after a miscarriage, and my doctor said, oh, lucky you, I'll just give you the strongest painkillers we have, and that's all I can do for you, but I'm really quite proud of you that you're even able to just function minimally. And this is going to be the rest of your life, so just get used to the pain. And I couldn't really believe that, so I started searching, and I'm really good at finding things that will solve problems. So this is one of those. I found this book, I started following it. There is a lot of information about it. I started following it, and that's been 7.5 years now. Within 3 months, I did not have the same pain anymore. And now, 7 years later, I have some pretty amazing results. I don't know if those kind of results can be guaranteed for everyone, but I think it's useful for you to hear that this is possible. And also I think it shows the powers of the feminine that might not be so known, because I think that a lot of women, and I've been in the women's movement now for about 14 years, and so it's a very modern kind of women's movement where we're all together still discovering what it actually means to be a woman and what has been suppressed and is now slowly through our experiences coming back. So you may be surprised about this. My experience, especially in the last half year, following this protocol, which is about detoxing first and then having a lot of knowledge about the hormones and then eating the right foods that will help to bring about a very advantageous balance. So it's like you get superpowered. There's 4 phases of the hormonal cycle for women, and each of these cycles has specific powers that you're very good at and things that you're not as good at. The first phase after menstruation is where you start planning, you start getting a lot of energy, the testosterone levels go up. Then you have ovulation, which is maximum testosterone level if you ever needed to do hard things, have hard conversations, but also like a moment that you have a lot of energy, you can have a party, you can do much more than you are actually able to when you're at a different level in the cycle, especially menstrual phase. So during ovulation, you have a lot of energy. You're also putting out a lot of energy that is magnetic, so you can actually attract a lot of things that you want. Your brain is working very, like your rational capacity is at its maximum at that point. Then comes the third phase, and the testosterone drops off, everything changes. It's the longest phase in which you're slowly starting to turn inwards again, but it's a very good time for finishing up projects, doing monotonous kind of things where you're not trying to set up any new things. So then comes the fourth phase, which would be the menstrual time. And this is what I really want to tell you about. So the menstrual time is really a time that the body is very quiet. It's very turned in for women. There is great strength in this period. So when you are eating according to the phase that you're in, first it's a system that you learn. Then you start to notice, I actually crave these foods as I'm entering that phase. And then you don't need the system anymore because your body tells you, now I'm going to that phase, now I want to eat those things. And when you actually do that, these powers that are associated with the phases, they become bigger and bigger. And of course, it's really important that towards the menstruating phase that you slow down, but your body will actually tell you. And this is, I think, something really powerful that women have naturally, and I think men would also have. I think a lot of things become easier when things are more normalized. You know, like it's normal to slow down at certain points in the year, in the month, and for women in our cycle. So what I have noticed is that I will start craving the foods for menstruation phase about 5 days before I start menstruating. In this time, I get really tired. I don't like to have people making a fuss around me. I don't really get bitchy just because I don't really have people around that I would need to get bitchy at. But if I had a partner around or people around, then it's really a good time for them to like kind of caretake me a little, just make sure that I'm okay, you know, ask me how I'm doing, make a cup of tea for me. Like a woman can really use a little more care and attention and just give her some space. And like that time, if I feel really protected and that it's okay for me to just be turned inwards more, then I get really soft and I can feel a lot of things. I don't think as much. A lot of women around this time start blaming themselves, of course, because in society it's expected of women that they still perform as much as they would in ovulation phase. But that's not really where we're at and what we're skilled at that moment. So it's a good time to see how your inner dialogue is actually going. Anyway, the power of that time is that when I start to eat the menstrual phase food, even though I'm not menstruating yet, but my body is telling me that it's time, what actually happens when I start menstruating, it's such a soft crossover. I don't have pain anymore. Like I literally don't have menstrual pain. I have heard of this from like other people, especially in indigenous settings, that it's not necessary to have pain. I don't want to say that that's reality for everyone, because I think people would feel really like, oh, so because I'm having pain now, I'm also just having a problem. No, but I just want to tell you that that's what happened to me. And slowing down has really helped. I have the luxury of slowing down, and I've just felt really, really fuzzy, warm, turned inwards, really like that moony kind of phase. It's very, very soft and beautiful, but also like this heaviness, like I'm very earthy and very settled. And within 24 hours of the moon bleeding starting, I call it moon time, moon bleeding, there's a lot of magic that can happen around that time, and I'm very psychic around that time as well. And then within 24 hours of the bleeding starting, the testosterone level will start to rise. If I started my moon bleed early in the morning, by nighttime, the testosterone levels are rising. I usually need to tell myself, just let it be. Don't start doing things. So today is for me 2. And you might see how much energy I have. It's also just normal to me. I'm a very energetic person. But this energy will keep rising until ovulation, which is like between 9 and 11 days from now. And so what I'm trying to say here is that I don't have menstrual pain anymore. I get very psychic. I can tell that the more that I'm really settling into this cycle, the more psychicness I have. Also, my body will change the cycle and I might not know why that is happening, but I have a lot of trust in my body. And it'll turn out that because I also plan my month around my cycle, because I know when I'll have a lot of energy and when I won't. When my cycle changes, I can usually tell that probably some activity is going to happen that I don't know, that no one has told me about. But then the moment comes and it's exactly either I'm very psychic and I'm starting to bleed, or I'm ovulating and there's this activity that I really needed a lot of energy for, and it's like my body is perfectly synced, even though I couldn't have in my mind known before. So this is also something that I think that women are developing again more and more, because I think in the past this was pretty normal. And I think that as women develop this more and more, it'll be also more accessible for men, and we can really I really hope that just telling you about this and women being able to empower themselves with a book like this, again, it's called Woman Code. I've used this very much. I've given it to a lot of women friends of mine. It's by Alyssa Vitti. She also has an online course. But yeah, eat according to your menstrual phase. And it'll be just wonderful for all of these intrinsic powers that we have to also be introduced into the world at large more and more, so that we have just access to so much more harmony. So I'm wishing you all a beautiful day. Thank you for listening, and bless.